All right. Good morning. Good morning. Happy Friday, everybody. Welcome, friends, to Simply Cyber's First Things First, your weekday morning cybersecurity threat briefing, giving you all the hot takes you can handle on information security stories that are timely, that are relevant. If you're new here, we dice it up. We cover the top stories of the day. I give a little bit of commentary. We all drink a little bit of coffee. And we have a good time. If you're new here, say what's up in chat. Always love in chat. You guys are the best. Bonjour, Richard. Good to see you. Lupe, always a pleasure. Adrian, Aber, good to see you. It's Don't Push to Production Friday. I hope everybody has a fantastic weekend. It was a long week. If you caught the show last night with Ricky Tan, cyberspatial, cyber cartography, great episode. I enjoyed it. I learned a lot. I love learning. Good morning, Dr. Joseph. Stella, always nice to see you. Carrie, love the support. Saw you there. Anthony, squad up. Yeah, Jess. Hope things are well with you. It really was a long week. It was, absolutely. Let me get this little timer going here. We'll do a couple minutes. I'm trying to work in a couple elements, guys. You know, I got this new eCam software. You'll notice that the watermark is no longer here. I've made the plunge, made the investment, despite BSEC's contrarian OBS comments. I've done it. This episode of Simply Cyber is brought to you by Simply Cyber. Since I'm officially sponsoring myself, if you want to continue the conversation, if you want to network with other really great cybersecurity professionals, if you want to, dive into a particular topic, get hands-on, get other people's thoughts, maybe get some questions answered, come to simplycyber.io/discord, and it will take you to the Simply Cyber Discord server, which is absolutely fantastic. Also, if you want to share this broadcast with other people, since it's live every day, you can go to simplycyber.io FTF, which is first things first. FTF, lowercase, uppercase. If you write out first things first, I try to think of every permutation that people might come up with so I could share it. The good news is Russell Brinson, member of the Simply Cyber community, who's doing great things, by the way, he's agreed. He's going to meet with me. He's done some event planning coordination in the past. I'm going to try to figure out a better way to be able to share like a calendar invite, or I've had multiple people approach me recently and say like, how do I know when you're going live? And I know that you can just hit the bell for notifications. I know you can subscribe and all that, but I want to make it as easy as possible. And I want to make it as, it's not just easy for you, but if you want to share it with someone else. Nothing's worse than like, oh, I do this great thing every morning. Oh, cool. That sounds good. I'd like to do it too. And then it's like, damn it, I don't know how to share it, right? Hey, Eric. I finally, yes. Hold on. How do I bring this into chat? Hold on. Look at this. I finally got the where do you get your news question in an interview last night after about telling him the briefing. Yes. Good job, Ryan. I'm really, really pumped for you. And you know what the thing is too? It's completely genuine. You're not trying to like, get around a question or have like the killer answer that's like, an inch deep. Like this is legit what we're doing here every morning. And I love it. Yeah, the bell does work good if you got YouTube. All right, guys, we're just about at time. Josh, good to see you. Thanks for being here. Base, BSEC. Tom Pike, on his mobile, heading to the well, I don't want to give his location away, but Tom Pike, man scoring InfoSec jobs and having 3-day weekends. So good on him. I love it. Love it. All right, guys, you know the routine. If you want to play along, if you're new here, we go to cisoseries.com. David Spark and his whole gang, they do a fantastic job of pumping out daily, weekday daily cybersecurity threat briefings, and that's what we piggyback off of. So let's get into it.
From the CISO series, it's Cybersecurity Headlines.
It's Friday, January 28th, 2022. U.S. says national water supply absolutely vulnerable to hackers. Cyber defenses for U.S. drinking water supplies are, quote, absolutely inadequate, end quote, and vulnerable to large-scale disruption by hackers, a senior official said on Thursday. The official continued, quote, there's inadequate resilience to even a criminal sector. The threshold of resilience is not what it needs to be, end quote. President Joe Biden has attempted to address infrastructure cybersecurity, but is limited by the fact that the vast majority of services are provided by private, not government companies. U.S. officials who spoke to reporters on condition of anonymity unrolled a plan to get the 150,000 systems that serve 300 million Americans to cooperate with the government by sharing information and hardening defenses.
All right, so a couple things here. One, in case you haven't been, you've been heads down and you haven't been paying attention. President Biden is working hard. He released an executive order a few months ago to basically bolster not just critical infrastructure, but the federal U.S. federal government, tighten things up basically. And one second, tighten things up basically. So this is no surprise that they are now saying, hey, the water supply is absolutely vulnerable to hackers. If you guys remember, maybe 6 months ago, there was a water treatment plant in Florida that was, hacked, right? Like basically someone got in with a remote management and the operator was actually looking at the person controlling them. It wasn't super lead. It was just like TeamViewer or LogMeIn or something like that. Maybe it was remote desktop to the internet. You know how I feel about that. So listen to me. This is good, but it's vulnerable to hackers in that it could be taken down. It's probably running old equipment. It's probably doesn't have a dedicated security staff. It's probably a private public sector kind of coordination type thing. The end result is they're trying to bring attention to this. There'll probably be some funding, some dollars, some program that helps these individuals, these groups tighten their information security. This isn't in direct relation to threat intel saying that there's a heightened risk of an attack on our drinking water and stuff like that. And I will say that I'm not directly related to this, but I know that they have physical checks and balances in place to check the lye amount in the water and stuff like that. It's not like they're just hoping that the water comes out safe to drink, right? So a lot of things would have to get compromised in order for us to actually ingest bad water. Now, the water getting compromised, that's a separate issue, but whatever. I'm just glad to see that there's more going into critical infrastructure strengthening.
Microsoft mitigated a record 3.47 terabits per second DDoS attack on Azure users. This attack targeted an Azure customer from Asia in November and was followed by 2 more large-sized attacks in December, also targeting Asian Azure customers. At 340 million packets per second, we believe this to be the largest attack ever reported in history, said Alethea To, an Azure networking product manager. To described this as having originated from approximately 10,000 sources and from multiple countries across the globe, including the United States, China, South Korea, Russia, Thailand, India, Vietnam, Iran, Indonesia, and Taiwan. Botina.
Okay, so huge denial of service attack. This is a technical article. It's interesting. It's interesting if it is the largest denial of service attack. But I mean, if it was 3.47 terabytes or it was 2.9 terabytes, it's still enough to knock it offline, right? And knocking Azure offline is pretty impressive considering how big Azure is and the resiliency and stuff like that. If you are new to information security or you're not super technical, this would be interesting to look at how do they get that much traffic, right? Basically what they're saying really quick here is 3.4 terabytes, right? They're saying that they pushed that much data directly at the internet facing elements of Azure. Think of, the pipe that goes to Azure, if you will. That pipe was absolutely saturated and flexing like a balloon that was about to pop with traffic, which means legit traffic can't go in, which is basically the crux of a denial of service. In order to do it nowadays, you do have to do distributed denial of service, which means multiple endpoints attacking in. This one looks like it was a reflective attack since it was, UDP packets. I'm not going to get super technical on this, but what I think is interesting is it brought down Microsoft for 15 minutes, or Azure. If you think about that, what is the real impact? Denial of service attacks that use traffic to flood are useful as long as they're up, right? Once they go down, everything returns back to normal. So it's not like a persistent, non-volatile concern. But if you're not really technical, it might benefit you to look at this, because this is a nice, tightly packaged use case of how a denial of service attack can happen and what the real life ramifications are. This is another one that is worth bookmarking under denial of service stories, just so you have like a really good example to go to if you're trying to talk to someone.
Go, Mirai botnet code leaked to GitHub. Millions of routers and Internet of Things devices are at risk, researchers from AT&T Alien Labs said on Wednesday, and they expect that the ready availability of the source code to malware authors will widen the number of attacks, especially given the opportunity for new malware variants. These attacks are expected to target routers and IoT devices globally. Antivirus detection for Botina Go, that's Botenago, is still bumping along near the bottom, with even the earliest samples discovered back in November still slipping past most antivirus software in order to infect systems with one of the most popular botnets of all, Mirai.
All right. Okay, so sorry, I was trying to read this one. This one's a little interesting. A couple things here. One, this code was released, which means more people are going to have access to it. Just based on the story, I'd have to dig in deeper to understand what this actually does and then how you might be able to detect it on your network. They're saying that signatures aren't detecting it, guys. Like, if you're relying on signature-based AV, you're not, you're like, that's the absolute lowest bar to jump over, right? I've seen threat actors who change their signature every 60 seconds, right, for a piece of malware and rotate it that way. So having a signature, having an MD5 hash or whatever, it's not super useful or effective, right? So for this particular malware, I'd have to want to check it out and see what's going on. To understand what's up. The one thing that I do think worth mentioning here is that it deploys Mirai, which is interesting, because I always thought Mirai was more of the infection point to get on the box. But another interesting thing to note, and this is something that we might see in the news next week or 2 weeks from now, okay? When Mirai, which was a botnet like 4 or 5 years ago. I mean, it's still around, but it was big 4 or 5 years ago. The two guys who originally wrote Mirai were college students at Rutgers, right? And once they got out a little bit, like once Mirai became a problem and the FBI started looking into it, these geniuses thought, holy crap, like, hey, let's hide in the noise. So they released Mirai source code on GitHub, and then tons of threat actors picked it up and started using it. And these guys were thinking, oh, hey, like, they'll think it was the threat actors in Belarus. They'll think it's the threat actors in Canada. Ultimately, the FBI got to them. But the point is, once the code was out, there was a massive surge in the use of Mirai, and people started adapting it, modifying it, adding functionality, etc. You could see this happening with this source code as well, since they've released it, right? If you release a working product, you lower the bar to like technical level to use, right? So anyways, I don't know if they leaked it on purpose for the same reason Mirai did it, or if, it seems weird to accidentally release your code on GitHub, right?
105 million Android users targeted by subscription fraud campaign. A premium services subscription scam for Android has been operating for close to 2 years. Called Dark Herring, the operation used Google Play Store apps and affected over 100 million users worldwide, potentially causing hundreds of millions of dollars in total losses. Dark Herring was present in 470 applications on the Google Play Store, Android's official and most trustworthy source of apps, with the earliest submission dating back to March 2020. Dark Herring relied on antivirus anti-detection capabilities, propagation through a large number of apps, code obfuscation, and the use of proxies as first-stage URLs. While none of the above is new or groundbreaking, seeing them combined into a single piece of software is rare for Android fraud.
Okay, so this is interesting. This thing operated for 2 years. And guys, we could have a philosophical discussion around Apple's walled garden for their apps and Google's like it, hey, whatever, free love. Like this is part this is what can happen when you have this. What's interesting is this thing doesn't include any malicious code. But it does force users into a subscription service. If you've got gray in your beard like me, or gray in your hair, right? Not everybody has beards. You might remember, like this is very similar to an attack back in the day. There were these things called 900 numbers, like back when we had phones and called on phones, right? And you could call a 900 number, and it was usually like hot sex phone call or whatever. But like there were other ones like investment tips or whatever. Nintendo Power Helpline. If you needed help beating Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, I called once. Listen, it costs money to call those 900 numbers, and threat actors actually figured out a way to trick your phone into calling the 900 numbers or texting numbers that required a payment in order to do that. This attack sounds so much similar to that. So it's funny. It's like a recycle on an old scam being done today. So I guess, pay attention to your finances, people. Look at your credit card statements. Make sure you're not subscribed to some crap that you're not aware of. I do feel like the credit card industry is pretty good about identifying weird fraudulent purchases, but this thing went on for 2 years and affected 100 million people. So I'm not really sure how, like they're obviously not catching it that way, but $15 a month for 105 million people. Let me just do some quick math in my head. That's what 15. Like, is that one? That isn't $1 billion. I don't know what 15 guys. I need more coffee. I don't know what $15 times 105 million is, but it's a lot more than my salary, right? So this is a crazy payday. So whatever. Threat actors being threat actors. Hopefully they get caught.
And now a word from our sponsor, Deepwatch.
Uh-oh.
Increasing ransomware attacks. Some new NFTs are being used to harvest viewers' IP addresses. NFT marketplaces like OpenSea allow vendors or attackers to load custom code when someone simply views an NFT listing. This is according to Nick Bax, who is head of research at NFT organization Convex Labs, who says the technique leverages cross-site scripting. Although it is common for websites in general to collect and store visitors' IP addresses, the difference here, Bax says, is that an outside third party, the NFT seller, is able to gather information on the people viewing the NFT, potentially without them knowing.
Okay. Just as a quick aside from that last story, $15 times 105 million. In my head, I was thinking that's $1,500 million. Okay. So I just want you to know where I am mentally. It's Friday. It's Friday, people. It's Friday. It's Friday. So check it out. NFT will steal your IP address. Like, I can't make this scroll up, right? But trust me, it says it will steal your IP address. With all due respect, like everything is getting your IP address. Like, it's trivial. If you've been in the cyber deception active defense class with me all this week, like getting your IP address is like, it's standard, right? It's everywhere, right? It's just your IP address. I'm not saying that it's good. I'm not saying that you should opt into it. I'm just saying getting your IP address is no big deal because you're literally sending packets to open seas. How do you think it sends you back packets? How do you think a TCP three-way handshake works? I got to figure out how to turn off my notifications. Is there like I got to, hold on. Yeah. Hopefully that works. I just set do not disturb on. Let me know in chat if like all of a sudden do not disturb means I muted everything. Listen, this is a salacious story that I'm saying that they put it on there because NFTs are like the hottest word. Like if you mention NFT, you get clicks. Stealing your IP address, I'm sleeping fine tonight. if I use OpenSea. I'm not worried about it.
Targeted ransomware takes aim at QNAP NAS drives.
Are you serious? BSEC, bruh.
The vendor recommends immediate updates. QNAP has urged NAS users to act immediately to install its latest updates and enable security protections after warnings that product-specific ransomware called Deadbolt is targeting users. Quote, Deadbolt has been widely targeting all NAS exposed to the internet without any protection and encrypting users' data for Bitcoin ransom, end quote. This is the warning from the Taiwanese company in a statement made on Wednesday. The ransomware leaves a note demanding payment of 0.03 Bitcoins. Security advice from QNAP includes disabling port forwarding and UPnP port forwarding if your NAS is internet-facing.
Okay, so two things here. One, I probably need a sound buzzer for when QNAP's NAS is in the news for sucking. Like, this product is regularly in the news as having some vulnerability, being exposed to the internet, being taken over, being attacked, ransomware, bricked, wiped. It's like always in the news. Like, I think QNAP needs to configure their device to harden itself by default and then have someone try to figure out how to make it less secure. These guys are always in the news with this. Like this is probably like these, hold on. The directions from QNAP are probably copy and pasted from the last vulnerability that they had and the last one before that and the last one before that. I can't tell if you guys can hear me or not. I'm hoping mod chat helps me out if the audio is jacked up. Long story short, if you're using QNAP, you probably already know that how to fix it because you've already patched it several times, right? Whatever. If you got a NAS pointed to the internet, please take precautions and harden it. The only thing I would say for practitioners here is I could see small businesses doing this or, friends and family, loved ones, right? But I don't know if you want to be tech support for your cousins. But just be aware, QNAP needs patches. It's a good reminder too, by the way, to remind people that, everything needs to be patched, not just operating systems, right? We need to patch firmware. We need to patch our phones. We need to patch middleware, Java, apps, etc. It's an ongoing thing. Threat and vulnerability management is a lifestyle.
Deep.web operator sentenced to...
Who would make Kando? Who would make a QNAP internet facing? Lots of people. Lots of people who want to be able to have their photos on the internet. Thanks for subs, Alex. People who want their, be able to show their pictures to their loved ones, or they travel a lot and they've got like movies, streaming movies on their QNAP device, so they want to be able to pull it. There's way better ways to do it, but if you don't know what you're doing, you just turn it's. Well, I'm not going to get into the IT versus InfoSec discussion again, but
8 years behind bars. Following up on a story we brought to you last April, this week the U.S. Department of Justice sentenced the operator of the Deep.web platform, Tal Prihar, to 97 months in prison on charges of conspiracy to commit money laundering, which Prihar had pleaded guilty to in March of last year. Deep.web was owned by Prihar and co-defendant Michael Phan and provided a platform for dark web news and links to marketplaces for which they received commissions worth more than $8 million. Michael Phan is currently in Israel and extradition proceedings are underway.
Okay, so this is interesting. It's not often that a Department of Justice indictment for a foreign national sees its way to completion, including punishment of jail time or financial penalties or both. So this is interesting. A good warning to threat actors that this can happen to you. This dude had to forfeit $8 million, which, it's got to be painful. Philosophical discussion, though. This guy, his website, Deep.web, according to the news story, right? So there is probably more here. According to the news story, it just provided dark web news and links to marketplaces. With all due respect, I don't see where the crime is in that, right? They're not hosting, they're not committing. I mean, I wonder if it was like abetting a crime or, you know what I mean? But like, if you ask me directions to like I don't know. No, if you ask me directions to somewhere and I tell you, or I've got a inventory of like, here's how you get to these places, and you go there, and then you commit a crime, I don't see how I'm involved with that crime. I guess they were getting commissions for sending people there, so I don't know. Whatever. This person's going to jail for 97 months, so that sucks for them. I'm glad that I'm glad I've chosen not to commit crimes, because I would not want to be in jail. All right, moving on.
Mack webcam hijack flaw wins $100,000 bug bounty from Apple.
Nice.
An independent security researcher has received a $100,000 bug bounty from Apple after discovering a security hole in the Safari browser for Mac OS that could allow a malicious website to hijack accounts and seize control of users' webcams. Ryan Pickren from the Georgia Institute of Technology uncovered a universal cross-site scripting flaw that could lead to security problems such as turning on the camera. He describes that the attack begins by tricking a potential victim into opening what they believe to be an innocent-looking PNG image file. Pickren responsibly disclosed the problems to Apple in mid-July of 2021. He is no stranger to bug bounty success, having found another Apple webcam vulnerability for which he was paid $75,000 a year before, as well as 15 million air miles through the United Airlines bug bounty program, in which he donated half to Georgia Tech and a further 2.5 million to Make-A-Wish America.
All right, so this is a great story. I love like this. I'm so glad that they do the stories this way sometimes, where like we just have like this criminal and it's seedy and it feels dirty, and then this dude, champion of our community, $100,000, not bad for a cross-site scripting error. You can find him out there, even for Safari, which I don't know who's using Safari, but opening an image file. So good on this guy. This is cool. Patch your Safari. Obviously, Mack's going to push it. One thing that I do want to point out for the community that I think is really cool, and you may not know it, this dude's from Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech, I know some people at Georgia Tech. They've got a very respectable cybersecurity program. Georgia in general, like Savannah, Aiken, there's one of the forts up there, not, like Augusta, like the Augusta's got a huge space right now. Like Georgia is like really kicking butt as far as like cybersecurity work, cybersecurity thinking, cybersecurity research, not just Georgia Tech, but that's one of them. But there's just a lot going on in Georgia, and I'm really happy to see it. I've connected with a couple people who work in the Georgia space. I know there's some security tech companies moving to Augusta, so that's kind of popping. So keep your eyes out for Georgia. Fort Gordon. Thank you, Mark. Yeah. So, and Keith and Eric. Yeah. And Kayla. It's popping. If you guys, just to put it in your back of your mind.
It's Friday.
It's Friday. So that does it for our news stories. Oh God, guys, we did great work. I want to tell you, because it's Friday, just as a reminder, if you're not, pushed this morning, I have an 8:30 that I'm going to have to jump to. But if you aren't pushed, go see Tea with a Hacker. This is Neil Bridges on Cyber and Security. He does a live stream every Friday at 8:30. If you do go over there, I can't go today, but please drop a hashtag Simply Cyber, just like Base dropped right there in chat, and we can let him know that we are coming in full force. Thank you, Base. You guys have a great one. I sincerely appreciate all of you. I hope you have a wonderful weekend, and we will see you on Monday at 8 a.m. Okay? Be good. We'll see you soon.